NBC's live coverage of Election Night 2012. NBC News has projected that President Barack Obama has won re-election. That happened when the state of Ohio was called, thus putting President Obama over the top. I then took one bathroom break the whole night, whereupon Colorado was called. I came back from the bathroom and said that Colorado was still too close to call. Nobody told me while I was in the bathroom Colorado went for President Obama. Thanks, you guys. I really appreciate it. You really took my back.
A lot of the rest of us were in the bathroom, too.
Right.
I think Mr. Matthews and Mr. Schmidt.
We were sneaking Colorado past you. By the way, it was on this very large screen here, by the way. It wasn't being hidden.
No label. It's square. I apologize. I made an error when I still described Colorado as too close to call. Colorado, NBC News projects, goes for President Obama. There are a few other things that we want to let you know about that are going on tonight that we have not yet discussed, but a lot of people have been paying attention to them, even if they are not in the state where they're happening, because these are some of the most interesting characters in the House of Representatives. In Illinois, the Republican incumbent is Joe Walsh. He is a guy who's gotten in trouble for saying some sort of outrageous statements and for screaming at his constituents on camera. In redistricting, he was up against, in an even more difficult district than he was in before, and up against a very tough opponent in the Democrat, Tammy Duckworth. Tammy Duckworth has beaten Joe Walsh tonight in 8th District in Illinois. In Florida, Alan Grayson, you guys know Alan Grayson, has defeated Todd Long. Alan Grayson coming back to Congress in Florida. Also in Florida, the scandal-ridden Republican Congressman David Rivera has been defeated. David Rivera will be leaving Congress. He's been replaced by the Democrat he was up against named Joe Garcia. Joe Garcia upsetting or unseating David Rivera there. In Iowa, Steve King, one of the most high-profile far-right members of Congress, has won re-election. Christy Vilsack was his Democratic opponent. Christy Vilsack, the wife of Tom Vilsack, the Secretary of Agriculture and the former governor of Iowa. In Minnesota, speaking of high profile, Michelle Bachmann is 50-50 with her Democratic opponent, Jim Graves. This is the 6th district in Minnesota. Michelle Bachmann is obviously nationally famous even before she ran for president this year. A very high profile member of Congress, and that race could not be tighter. There's obviously no characterization there. In District 18 in Florida, this is also a race in which there is no characterization. 50-50 between Allen West, the very outspoken, controversial Republican congressman in Florida District 18, and his Democratic opponent, Patrick Murphy. Look at how tight that is. Not just 50-50, but in terms of that raw vote. So we're going to be keeping an eye on these House races, some of the ballot measures, some of the undecided Senate races at this point, as the race continues to unfold. Keep in mind, for the overall context of the House of Representatives, NBC News did project early tonight that the House overall would continue to be held by the Republicans. And that means everything in the House in terms of power in the House. The Speaker of the House will continue to be the Republican John Boehner. Obviously, the main story of the night, though, continues to be the presidential election. NBC News projects that President Obama has won re-election, that he will be a second-term 44th president of the United States. That call coming upon President Obama being projected to win the state of Ohio. All of the networks, for what it's worth, called Ohio for President Obama. But the Romney campaign is refusing to concede in Ohio, and they are refusing to concede overall. We still have outstanding races, too close to call races in Nevada, in Florida, and in Virginia. Colorado is the most recent state to have been called for President Obama. Ohio has also, by NBC News, been called for President Obama, but again, the Romney campaign refusing to concede that. To go back to Ohio again, in terms of the drama there, I want to try to bring in NBC's Chuck Todd, if we can again, in terms of talking about not just the Romney campaign's case. We'll bring back Chuck in just a moment. But we all know the numbers that Chuck has been putting out there in terms of the hundreds of thousands of votes that are still expected to come in from Democratic-leaning parts of Ohio, the comparatively much smaller number of votes still expected to come in from Republican-leaning areas of Ohio. Is there any way that any of us looking at those numbers can see any possibility that Ohio doesn't go the way that all the networks say it's going to go? Does this seem like a realistic thing to hold out on?
I don't see how it could happen. The northern tier of the state is heavy labor. I just got off the phone with Leo Gerard of the Steelworkers. He said that they threw everything they had at Ohio. There's never been this kind of an effort put forward by labor across the table to make sure that Sherrod Brown would go back to the Senate and also that the president would win Ohio. And the way way it breaks out demographically and just the wage earners, where the factories are, where the automobile loan had an impact, these are the counties that they're waiting on, and that was the 750 to 140 number that Chuck Todd was talking about. And I think it's going to be interesting to see in Hamilton County just how well the president performed tonight, because he did very well for the first time in many years for a Democrat to win that in 2008. And their model was that if they could just come back and get half of that or close to it, that they would be in good shape, because they knew that northern tier was going to be just fine.
Steve, who is it in the Romney campaign who is telling the campaign to hold off? Who's the vote counter? That's not a Stuart Stevens call. That's not a high command staff decision. Isn't that someone who is a technical expert?
The political director of the Romney campaign is Rich Beeson. He's one of the most talented field operatives in the Republican Party, very, very highly thought of, absolute expert in this space and politics. And so they're looking at this, and again, I think that, you know, in the next hour or so, we'll have an indication.
And would he be trading phone calls with people on the ground in Ohio on this?
I think what typically would happen on this is that they have people in the field. They have, certainly be in touch with the governor's political people. They are in touch with their staffs at the county level. They're looking at all the votes, all the precincts. So they have very elaborate, very sophisticated modeling on a precinct by precinct basis. And so, they're fully aware, as Chuck pointed out, you have 750,000 votes in Democratic leaning areas and 140,000 outstanding in Republican leaning areas, and they can do the math on that. So I'm sure that who knows what's going on behind the scenes right now. I mean, it's a difficult blow to absorb, as we talked about, and they're still counting votes in Florida, still counting votes in Virginia. So I don't think we'll go too much longer, I suspect, before we hear some indication from the Romney.
Let me also just note sort of where that fantasy path ends up. Right now, we're also still counting votes in Nevada.
Yeah.
And if, let's say, some sort of crazy miracle happened in Ohio for the Republicans, and Ohio got dropped off of President Obama's electoral tally, and it did go to Mitt Romney, let's say that would happen. If you subtract from President Obama's 284 electoral votes, you take Ohio's 18 off, that brings you down to 266. If he wins Nevada, he doesn't need Ohio.
Yeah. We could say that's going to happen, but in fact, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The president's going to win Ohio, and he's been reelected tonight.
Yeah.
Gosh, he would win it without Ohio, Virginia, or Florida being called.
If he wins Nevada, yeah. I should also mention that just in terms of the overall perspective right now on this race, Chris Matthews, you were right to note earlier that there are only 2 states at this point that President Obama won in 2008 that he did not win tonight, Indiana and North Carolina. And right now, I think, do we have a graphic in terms of what the popular vote is right now? Again, the popular vote is not constitutionally relevant, but it is what Americans do. This is the reflection of what's happened right now as of tonight, and President Obama is leading in the popular vote, as well as having won already in the electoral vote. I want to bring in Cory Booker now, who is the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. Newark's New Jersey's largest city has been suffering this week through the effects of Hurricane Sandy. And Cory, I know that your city has been through a lot in the past week or so, and the election is probably not the most important thing on your mind. But I still want to get your reaction tonight to the president winning re-election and to the way the Republican Party is handling it.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for your attention you've given to all those struggling in the New Jersey area, in my city, as well as places like New York. And today I saw that it was the important thing on people in my community's minds. People who've been going through quite a bit, obviously, the last week, still felt this urgency to vote for President Barack Obama because issues, whether it's people with pre-existing conditions, whether it's people whose children came home from a war that President Barack Obama ended in a responsible way. So there was a sense of urgency today, even despite all the challenges that we're dealing with. And Rachel, can I just say something, because I'm following this very closely. Please. It's not in my state, but Martin Luther King said the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I'm getting word that Maryland is now dealt with their marriage equality and affirmed that. So did Maine, Washington. Republican is leading. There's something powerful happening in America that gives me such pride tonight. When you look at the Lilly Ledbetter law that Barack Obama passed, it stands on the DREAM Act, the end of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and 4 states looking to affirm marriage equality. To me, what that's saying is that American democracy continues along that line of being more inclusive, continues to be more equal, and we're making a better country that understands that we're all in this together and we need each other. And that's the spirit that I saw during this hurricane, right and left coming together. And I'm so happy to see that spirit continuing to advance in our nation.
Cory Booker, Mayor of Newark, New Jersey. Sir, thank you very much. I know, Cory, just as a friend and I know as an elected official, you have been going above and beyond the call this last week or so. Continued good luck to you, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. What Cory was just referencing there about marriage equality, I will be corrected by the control room if I have this wrong, but at this point, we can say that the Maryland marriage equality measure is passed. Marriage equality is affirmed in the state of Maryland. I do not believe that we've got a call already on those other states, but we'll keep you apprised as those things.
But I think that's big news, and that's why I was saying policy. And I was involved in the Maryland fight, and I think that we are seeing a clear pattern across the country tonight of the growth in this country around various issues in terms of women's rights, civil rights, human rights. And I think that that has got to be factored in when the Republicans have their, kind of self-introspection moment, if you can arrange that, Steve, because there's a lot of rejection here of a lot of what has been touted. Everything that was predicted against this president, he would win the electoral, not the popular. I mean, looks like all of the scenarios of doomsday or partial doomsday is just not panning out. And I think the American people have sent a firm message tonight.
And it's very important that was a vote by the people. This is a big development here. It's not the courts. It's not the courts. It's not interpretation of constitutions. It's this is a ratification by a plebiscite, and this is a big step forward.
So what does Romney say in 10 minutes?
Romney is expected to speak at 12:55, which is about 7 minutes from now. And what we're told is that that is the time that he will speak. We are not told anything about what will be the content of his remarks.
I can't conceive of him coming out now and doing anything but conceding. If he's not going to concede, he shouldn't be coming out. It will be shocking if he does anything other than concede.
That doesn't mean you don't think he might.
I think with him, there's the possibility that he's going to do something very weird.
That's what I'm worrying about.
But
right now.
you know,
I'm worried about something strange here.
If there's a professional running things, the man is coming out at this hour to concede.
Well, getting back to your point about the Republican Party, we're going to hear that he was a bad candidate, wasn't very well defined, never really got everybody to get behind him, and oh, by the way, Chris Christie was a big problem, so there's really nothing wrong with our party. That's what they can come.
And then they will continue to lose, and they will marginalize themselves. I think at some point, even when I disagreed, the Democratic Party had to deal with how do we start becoming viable. First time I voted was in '72, and I was Shirley Chisholm's youth director. I could vote. I was 18 that year. When McGovern took that beating, many of us loved McGovern, but there had to be a whole, what we called at that time, come to Jesus meeting. And the party led all the way to Bill Clinton and triangulation. But you're going to have to have the same thing.
You had a Bob Strauss. You had a leader.
Exactly.
I think it's Haley Barbour on the Republican side. I don't think it is Mitch McConnell. I think Haley Barbour, if you listen to him and analyze politics, he's always telling the truth if you get him in the back room.
Yeah,
he isn't confused.
Absolutely.
But he's a powerless man.
Well, he doesn't have a position.
In
I know.
no position that can leverage.
But he and Lindsey Graham put him together. Some brains there.
Lindsey Graham's a senator. He can actually do something.
As we're about 5 minutes away from Mr. Romney's remarks, and again, we do not know what Mr. Romney is going to say. We just know he's going to speak in about 5 minutes. Chris Jansing is with us from Romney headquarters in Boston. Chris, do we expect Mr. Romney to concede? We know he's expected to speak.
We got confirmation literally just seconds ago, Rachel, that the phone call has been made, that Mitt Romney has called President Obama to congratulate him on being reelected President of the United States. And we do expect that any second now the motorcade will make the 2 blocks if he comes around the other side from the Westin Hotel that's connected here to the convention center, that they will come here, that he will go out on that stage in the next 5 minutes, and he will concede. There was some confusion because they told us 12:55 for remarks and no phone call had been made, but we just got confirmation that that has happened, Rachel.
That is huge news. President Obama has been phoned by Mitt Romney to concede the race. Mr. Romney will speak in about 4 minutes. We will be back for that right after this.